Good evening and welcome to the Lone Tree City Council meeting. It is April 21st, 2020. We are going to wait a few minutes to allow the public to connect to the meeting. And while we do that, I just want to let folks know how you can participate in public comment. So you can enter public comment by clicking Ask a Question in the sidebar, entering your name, address, and your comment. If you would like to speak to the council directly using your telephone, please indicate that in the Ask a Question sidebar, and you receive a call from city staff to connect you so we can hear your public comment. All public comments should be directed to the city council, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. So again, we'll give it a minute or so for the remaining folks to connect in with us. Again, Lone Tree City Council meeting, April 21st, 2020. Thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, it looks like we are all ready here. I will officially open our meeting and I will ask our city clerk, Mr. Rob, to take roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Anderson, are you with us?
We'll come back to Councilmember Anderson.
Okay. Councilmember Carpenter.
Here, present.
Councilmember Shaw.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Brunick.
Here.
And Mayor Millet.
Here. So we do have a quorum, and I know we are having some technical difficulties with Council Member Anderson, but we expect him to be joining us shortly. So I think we can go ahead with our quorum. I would ask that everyone stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, there are no amendments to the agenda, so it is adopted as published. It is going to be a little bit different this evening, and frankly, in hindsight, we recognized maybe this is more of a study session council meeting than it really is a regular council meeting, since we will not be taking any action this evening on items, but we think it's very important that the city council and our community be updated on the good work that has been happening within our community, not just the everyday business of the city, but some of the special circumstances and initiatives that are moving forward because of the COVID pandemic. So we will move on to ask if there are any conflicts of interest from council members. Anyone, please speak now, or I will move on.
No conflicts, City Carpenter.
Okay. All right. And now is the time for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please type your name into the message window and the topic you would like to address. And our wonderful staff will coordinate the comments for the meeting this evening. And again, limit your comments to 3 minutes. We are going to pause for a second to allow you time, if there is someone from the public that wishes to address council, for you to type that in. And while we do that, I believe, has Councilmember Anderson joined the meeting?
Yes, I have.
Wonderful. I thought you were there, but I wanted just to confirm. So we are all present. So if there are any public comments, please include them in the ask a question box or make a request to connect via conference call. And thank everyone for your patience while we do this. As we know, we are in different times now with a virtual meeting, so we want to make sure we give the public time to address anything to council.
Mayor, it does not appear that we've received any such request.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman, our awesome city manager. All right, we're going to move on to the agenda. On the agenda to announcements and presentations, we're going to start with a wonderful, heartwarming one. I'm thrilled to hear more about an update on Hearts Across the Mile contribution. And Seth, I think you're going to take that on for us.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. This is a really great thing to start with. In a little bit, we're going to talk about all the ways that Lone Tree is making a difference in our community. Tonight, we get to start with how we've made a difference literally all the way around the world. Last year, for our Independence Day celebration, we sold $10,275 worth of wristbands to our Independence Day celebration, purchased by Lone Tree residents. And subsequently, we donated that check to Hearts Across the Miles, who's an organization you're all very familiar with. Hearts Across the Miles, in turn, purchased Girl Scout cookies, or had Girl Scout cookies donated, and then used that money for postage to send these care packages all the way around the world. This one to Afghanistan. And so we get Hearts Across the Miles got a thank you note from Major Bancroft that I'm going to read here just in a second, and really kind of a heartwarming little thank you note. It says, "Dear Hearts Across the Miles and Girl Scout Troop 63684, thank you so much for the care package. I've never seen so many Girl Scout cookies. I work in the operating room at the largest military hospital in Afghanistan. You sent so many cookies that I had enough to share all over the hospital. Your generous gift created smiles all over the hospital. Thank you so much for thinking of us. We hope to be back home soon. Warmest regards, Major Sean Bancroft." So really cool message, and a really concrete way to see how, you know, the residents of Lone Tree contributed. The city had a part, and obviously Hearts Across the Miles and the Girl Scouts sending a little bit of color and joy all the way to Afghanistan. So really happy to share that good news.
And that is great news, Seth. And I appreciate seeing you wearing your mask. I know, or you having the mask available. I know you are at the city office. Most of us are remotely communicating from home, but I know I've got my mask here as well. When we leave our house, we wear them. So appreciate seeing yours. And again, this is a great story of collaboration. And while we're in the midst of this crisis here, we can't forget about the men and women that are faithfully serving us in this country and throughout this world. So that's a great story. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Now we are going to move on to some of the city responses to, excuse me, council, does anybody have any comment on that? I apologize. Questions or comments for Seth?
Just a comment, great job, and also appreciate all of Paul Squire's help, obviously, along the way.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I appreciate starting off with good news. Now we're going to move on to, and this is the part of this is good news too. I think our response to the COVID-19 crisis, a lot of what we're doing, I think, is making, you know, lemonade out of the lemons. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. I think it's Kristen Baumgartner is going to be starting this.
I'll lead off real quick and let Kristen go. But yeah, I thank you, Mary. You pointed out my mask. This is actually from the Lone Tree Mask Project. Somebody knew that my favorite color was khaki, kind of a Lone Tree beige color. So really matches my outfit. So this is one little concrete example of the difference that our staff and our volunteers are making. We're going to go through and talk a little bit about about that, and also talk about the other great work that our city staff is doing. So I just want to say that our city staff is really doing an outstanding job in a very, very difficult time. They have every single one of them really stepped up to take the fight to this virus and its economic impacts. And I couldn't be prouder. We've talked a lot about how in our leadership team about how, times of crisis can really highlight strengths and weaknesses. And what it's really highlighted is we don't have any weak links in our chain. And so I'm really, really proud of the work that our staff has done. And I'm really, really thankful for the support they have all received from you all on the city council. So thanks for that. I'll probably say a couple more things after we finish, but I'll turn it over to Kristen for just an update on our ongoing city services.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate that. And I am also in the office this evening, and happy to be with you all. And I have my mask too, but mine is a bright blue leopard print. So it shows that the city manager and I have a little different personality, I guess, on our mask selection. But thank you everyone for being with us again tonight. Just wanted to real briefly, before we go into the initiatives that we've been working on, talk a little bit more about that. A lot of our staff is so busy doing the day-to-day regular activities of the city, and we've been really proud that everyone's been able to stay motivated and continuing to serve the community like they always have. We've also learned some great new ways, though, to do business that we're going to continue hopefully after this. When we're back in the office. Some of the things that we're really proud that we've been able to switch to so quickly are our virtual meetings. Our council meetings, as we're doing right now, have been successful. This is our third one. We've also been able to take public comment, and still even expanded ways we can take public comment by soliciting it even in advance of the meetings, which I think will probably continue that even after we start having in-person meetings. And then we are able to do public hearings as well, which we were really excited at our last meeting. We were able to do a liquor license hearing, which is a quasi-judicial action, which we heard afterwards that we were one of the first in the state, but that was really important so we could support one of our local businesses with their liquor license process and not hold that up. So really happy that we've been able to embrace kind of the virtual meeting environment. We've also continued to have our meetings with the mayor on a monthly basis. So the Mayor Millay is available for people who would like to set a time to speak with her directly. We've been holding some of our boards, commissions, and committee meetings through this venue. We also have been doing all of our staff meetings, and some of those have been so successful that, again, I think we'll continue in different ways after this is all over. I'd like to ask Kirk Wilson, our chief of police, to quickly give one quick anecdote on how he's been able to kind of embrace the virtual meeting environment.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mayor, City Council. How's everybody?
Good, Chief. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm at home. I don't have a mask on, but I am making everybody else in the house wear one.
Good.
So, hey, so I think, I was probably the most skeptical person in the entire leadership team about working from home. But I'll tell you, we've been pretty successful doing that as a police department. And I think it will have, if there's anything that comes out of this, there's some really, so there are some positive things that are going to come out with some innovations and implementing some of these strategies that we have that will probably continue. But, just last week, I hadn't had a supervisor meeting in about 30 days. And typically we all get together in the Juniper room and we meet and we go around, and but obviously that wasn't really acceptable to do anymore. So we had a virtual staff meeting, and I have one almost every day with my commanders. Sometimes we're actually in offices adjoining, but we still just do it virtually. And then, but I had all the supervisors get together. We actually had a very, very productive meeting. I was almost, oddly enough, it was more interactive than almost the face-to-face ones. I don't know why, but hopefully that's a good sign. But I can see some real positive things that come out of that. Saving time, drive time, less people on the road. We have these supervisor meetings, and sometimes we have to bring our midnight people in, who typically don't work till 9, but we make them come in at like 4 o'clock to do a meeting. And then that's very difficult for them because, then they got to either drive back home or just work through. So now we don't have to do that. we use Teams. We have them jump on for 1 hour or, maybe a little bit more. We do the meeting and they go back to their family and then they come in for their regular shift. So, there are some really positive things that I think coming out of this from a, an awareness standpoint, and then also from leveraging some technology that probably some of us folks that maybe are a little bit older aren't really, we're a little resistant to even using. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirk. So, and then just kind of the last piece of that is just that we actually had to continue on with our city's external audit, and we were able to do all of our audit field work virtually in the last 2 weeks. So our finance team worked really hard so we could stay on task there, and really excited we were able to accomplish that. And then the last couple things, just we're going to update the later in the presentation about a couple capital projects that the city is still moving forward on, and Justin Schmitz, our Public Works Director, will give updates on that. But we're excited to take advantage of some of the lighter traffic right now and be able to capitalize on getting some of our capital projects done that were already in the works, like our Yosemite Adaptive Traffic Signal project and Rigsby Parkway. If you've been out there, you'll see that that's still underway. So excited that those are still continuing. We're also still seeing a lot of ongoing development projects. We're really excited that our partners are still wanting to invest in our community, and we're still moving forward on several things with shade development and a lot of the other development around the light rail stations, as well as in and out. And then last, we are going to start shifting our focus to safely look at reopening the city facilities once we're able to do that. So we're spending some time to make sure we're setting the example for the community in our own practices, so that we can get everything reopened as quickly as we can. So with that, I will switch it over to the next part of the presentation.
Hey, Christine, before you move on, I just want to give council the opportunity. This is a little bit of a different framework for us, but to quickly run through and see if there's any questions from council on anything that they heard from you. So I'll quickly just go through. Mayor Pro Tem Brunick, any questions, thought on this?
No questions. I live in the virtual format all the time. So I am so glad that the city is adopting some of those practices. I do think that there is some really good changes that can be made that come from this. So I'm glad that, as hard as parts of it are, I'm really pleased to see people adapting to the technology.
Great, says our tech expert. Okay. Councilmember Anderson, any thoughts? And you don't have to. I just want to make sure if there's questions about anything that's going on, you have the opportunity to ask them.
From the least tech qualified individual. It's not just us, it's our partners that are also come up on the virtual world. And I think together we're all learning that there are ways to continue to conduct business, and you don't have to always do it face to face. So innovation and is moving us forward, and I think we'll be more effective in communicating in the future.
Okay, but I still can't wait till I get to be in a room with all of you guys again. So, all right, Councilmember Carpenter, anything?
Yeah, no questions per se, but yeah, just a comment on that, just how it's incredible how efficient we still can be. And I just wanted to applaud staff in terms of being proactive to have the resources set up prior to this happening, whereby we can actually still be pretty productive. So thanks.
Great. And Councilmember Shaw.
Yes, I actually had a question about the front desk area. We had talked a while ago about whether or not we would close that off. This may be an opportunity to do that, and it would be an appropriate move to help protect that area and back of the front desk. I don't know, but that occurred to me. I also wanted to say this has worked very, very well, and with the electronics, and I am just very grateful that for not being able to forecast what crisis would come down the road, we have felt very prepared. I think I'm blown away by that. So thanks to all the staff.
Okay, Great. Okay, thanks. I don't think I'm going to stop after each one of these to have you guys comment, but I want you to feel free to just interject if there's something that you would like to follow up after we hear these staff presentations, okay? All right, with that, I think we're going to move on to community and well-being, and we've got Lisa Rigsby Peterson and Kelly First on deck for this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. On behalf of Kelly First, who is our committee co-chair, and I, we're excited to share good news with you. Some of you may have seen John Krasinski's Some Good News podcasts that he's doing on a weekly basis, and that's this part of the presentation, I think. And really, the programs I'm going to give you updates about are the confluence, I think, of our residents who are passionate about making a difference and helping others in this time, and the staff being able to support those efforts. And so we are really grateful for all of the commitment that our staff and our residents have made, and thank you as well to all of you on council for your support. So the first program that I'd like to give you an update about is Lone Tree Feeds, a program designed to help support our restaurants while at the same time provide meals to first responders and our frontline workers. Amazingly, in just 14 days, we've raised almost $27,000 from over 152 donors. What that means in total is that we have been able to deliver 1,225 meals to first responders and frontline workers. You'll see on this, at the bottom of this slide, there's a pizza oven that we all know and love at Via Bacci on your left-hand side. There's Nukes and Red Robin and Fogo de Chao, and there's so many other restaurants that are participating, delivering meals to our fire stations, to Sky Ridge, as well as to our police department. So it's really testament to the work of a very strong community committee that had a vision, and we were delighted to be able to partner with them and make this program really exemplary, I think, in our state. The next program is the Lone Tree Mask Project, and we have delivered almost 400 masks already to 20 essential businesses. And this program happened quite organically. We knew there was a need for it, and we certainly knew that our Lone Tree Art Center ushers were really missing being able to volunteer their time. And so we sent a call out to them, and between our Art Center ushers, between our volunteers, and even some of our city staff, we have over 40 people who are providing fabric, providing elastic, and sewing masks. We have, through the Lone Tree Business newsletter, put a call out to essential workers, and Robin Skirdo, who is heading up this project, personally called Safeway, Costco, Target, all of our open essential businesses to ask if they needed these cloth masks, and as a result, we've been able to deliver almost 400 of them. You'll see that we've got the Hampton Inn, Vectra Bank, one of our great sewing volunteers is pictured here, as well as one of the most essential businesses in the city of Lone Tree, Lucas Liquors. So we are so happy to be able to be part of this really critical project, keeping people safe and healthy. Other initiatives, and we're kept to 3 slides, so that's good. The Youth Commission, both Liana and Austin are working with the Youth Commission, who have created a story time, a YouTube channel with story time, where they are reading stories, giving those parents who probably can only muster the effort up for one more Dr. Seuss story. They're giving them a little bit of a break, and so those youth commissioners are reading stories online. We are getting ready to finalize a date for a community blood drive in late May with Vitalant, which used to be the Bonfils Blood Center. The need for blood is fairly steady right now because there are no elective surgeries, less people on the road, so there are fewer accidents, but they do know that as summer approaches, they'll need more donations. So we're talking to them about a late May drive that we will have at the event hall at the Art Center. It will be very safe. We will be taking all precautions and look forward to sharing more information about that with you soon. I have to give a shout out to our awesome communications director, Denise Kaufman, as well as her team, who are doing a great job sharing all of these stories. They'll be looking at community champions who they can highlight about the great work that's happening in our community. We're also beginning an essential workers appreciation program where we're sending messages of support to those people in the gas stations and the restaurants and the hotels and the grocery stores, just to say thank you for working and helping to keep us supplied with what we need. And so that program is being developed as we speak. And finally, a big component of our committee is employee safety and well-being, and that of course is being headed up by our HR director, Christy Robinson, and it includes a variety of delivering a variety of resources to our staff members, letting them know that they're cared about and thought about and taken care of. And one of the initiatives, we're all really sorry that tomorrow, which is Administrative Professionals Day, we won't be in the office to appreciate our administrative professionals, but that employee committee is already on it and we'll be recognizing them virtually. So all of those programs under the umbrella of the Community Connection Wellbeing Committee are making a big difference in our community. We're happy to see the results and just really feel very fortunate that we've got such great support from our community and residents for those programs. So thank you.
Lisa, thank you. And I know I speak for council when I just say how much we appreciate every single one of the staff members. You're our everyday heroes and essential workers keeping all of this running. So thank you for that great work.
Thank you.
And then it looks like economic recovery, and Jeff Holwell is going to lead that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Great to see you all tonight. I am again honored to be leading the economic recovery team. We've been very active with our business community and are looking forward to working with them in the coming months as well. Some of the major points that we've been working on with the community have been primarily in communication. Lone Tree Business Matters was launched as a newsletter to our entire business community last week that covers everything from our direct connections to support programs to good news stories that we want to share with our business community. You know, Lone Tree Eats has been a campaign that we launched at the very beginning of this to support our takeout and our restaurants that are supplying takeout to the community. Lone Tree Works is a campaign that we are launching to support our service-oriented businesses and retailers that are also doing unique things to operate in this economy, and will become a marketplace on our website and through social media to promote our business community in the months ahead. The SBA Paycheck Protection Program is what I've spent and the committee spent a very large chunk of our time on with our business community. One, promoting it to the business community as a lifeline for their operations, but two, making sure that they have access to a financial institution that can actually help them apply for their program. As I'm sure you've read in the media, there's been a lot of trouble with finding a bank that can serve them. We've been lucky in Lone Tree to have some really good local partners. A big shout out to Vectra Bank Lone Tree, who's been huge in helping companies that are trying to find access to a banker or to this program apply for it. The state of Colorado received over $7 billion in loans in its first round of this program, over 41,000 loans. And we don't know the statistics to date for the city of Lone Tree, but again, the help we've received and the campaign that's been launched, I believe will be very critical to our business community. Finally, on this slide, federal and state legislation is something we're following that is helpful for the business community as well as to local government. I will touch on that later in the council meeting tonight on a different agenda item. Next slide, please. We remain focused on economic development. Our primary employers, thankfully, are actually doing fairly well. Entities like Canvas Credit Union are operating at full speed. None of their employees have been laid off. Schwab is continuing to operate online or virtually. Kiewit Infrastructure is continuing to build their projects. Cochlear Americas is continuing to move into their building along Park Meadows Drive. And we're very thrilled that last week Lockheed Martin signed their lease on Park Ridge 1, the building at 10475 Park Meadows Drive, Lincoln and I-25, to occupy the entirety of that building with 775 employees from their space systems group. they'll be non-classified employees, but they took the lease and they'll be moving in July. And then my final point is, you know, that this committee will be very busy working with our community, whether it's business community, whether it's in communication or in a direct contact about reopening our economy as it slowly happens over the course of the year. Of course, that will be very tied to public health orders and how those come together. And you'll be hearing a little bit more of that too as we transition to the next topic of public health and how we envision a lot of this happening. No, thank you again.
Thank you, Jeff. And then next is public health with Bill Medina. Bill, looks very complicated. You got the complicated slides.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be working with the public health group. It's not necessarily the most uplifting topic, but we got a lot of dedicated employees who really want to make a difference for the community. You know, keeping track of all the information that's being disseminated out there at the federal, state, and county level is definitely a challenge. So we have employees that are spending a lot of time on a daily basis on each of these websites to figure out what the changes have been. Just since the last time we met, the state implemented a symptom checker, which allows people to volunteer their information when they're experiencing COVID symptoms. This will allow the state to track cases that would not previously have been tracked through testing. The state is providing now data on a weekly basis about the outbreaks, and we've discussed the severity of those outbreaks and how they can really impact our healthcare system. So having the details about those outbreaks is also another important data point. We're also getting information on a weekly basis about the hospital capacity, which is getting reported to the state through the Colorado Hospital Association. And, you know, as the governor stated, right now things are looking okay in terms of the critical node, which they're looking at as ICU beds. At Tri-County Health level, we've also seen quite a few changes. You see a picture there of a map that's available on their website under the case statistics section. And what that does is it shows you the number of cases by neighborhood. So giving you a real refined look at where we're experiencing the cases here in Douglas County. With testing, tracing, and treatment, we continue to monitor the regional initiatives that are going on and trying to contribute in any way we can possible. You know, it really has been indicated in all of the research and literature that having, you know, robust testing, tracing, and treatment is going to be the way to really get to the other side of this crisis. We are staying in very close contact with Skyridge Medical Center on the treatment side. They seem to be in very good shape. We've offered resources if they need anything, and they definitely have a very good plan to surge if needed, but at this point they have not had any requirement to institute any of their surge plans. We'll go to the next slide, please. So we're also focused on public health because we want to make sure that our city employees are healthy and have a safe work environment so that we can continue to deliver essential services to the citizens of Lone Tree. One of the things we're implementing is a health screening process, and there on the right you see a picture of a touchless thermometer. Our screening process will include a temperature check, and we'll have a couple of those thermometers located in various places throughout the building in order for employees and people who are conducting business at the city can do a temperature check to make sure that no one is potentially has any symptoms of COVID. You see the picture there of the face mask. We have established a policy for city employees to wear face masks while at work. Fortunately, we have the support through the initiatives that Lisa talked about to make sure that every city employee does have a cloth face mask. One of the new focus areas that we did not discuss last time is reopening and reentry. And we've spent a lot of time in this area. Of course, since last time we met, the president talked about a general framework for opening up the economy again. We're doing a lot of research to identify different frameworks that we can potentially provide to businesses about how they would operate under these, what we anticipate are going to be the restrictions that are released when the new safer at home order does when we do get the details about that. And we'll go to the next slide. So speaking of that, I'm just going to provide a brief overview of some of the things that the governor talked about in transitioning from stay at home to safer at home. And I think the critical thing here is that, you know, if we are currently achieving 75, 78% social distancing, the next step is to back off a little bit and back off to 60 to 65%. So there are still going to be vulnerable populations are going to be recommended to stay with those stricter social distancing guidelines that we're currently under, but we will be able to see some potential openings. Of course, nursing homes will still have the strict precautions and protections with no visitors available. Retail will potentially open with the first step being curbside service, and then the second step being able to have in-store service with reduced number of customers to allow for that social distancing. We'll go to the next slide, please. Of course, then opening non-critical businesses with 50% staffing, which was one of the steps that was imposed when we were on our way to the stay-at-home order that we're at now. So that looks like it's definitely going to follow here in the near future. Something that is, I'm sure, interesting to our hospital community is allowing elective medical services with some strict precautions as well. And then the bars and restaurants, that is probably something that's a little bit further down the road. Of course, for right now, it looks like the safer at home will continue with just takeout and delivery only. One of the things that, you know, we looked at, for example, today, in conjunction with the police department, we met with the management from Park Meadows Retail Resort to talk through their concept of how they're going to operate differently under these expected restrictions. And so we're really leaning forward and trying to make sure that that we are able to provide the information to the businesses so that they can open as efficiently and safely as possible when it's permitted. And I think that is all I have. So I'm followed by Kirk.
Okay, Chief, you're back up.
I'm still here. Good evening again. So I'm just giving you an update on kind of what we're working on since the last time we updated. I did throw a picture in here. We're having a new briefing. That's what it looks like now. One of our volunteers' daughters, she's a senior in high school, did all this artwork with the volunteer. I cannot remember their last name right now, but they spent about 3 hours out there on Saturday putting all this artwork on the ground. There's a Tim Bills there is standing on a Lone Tree logo that they did right in front of the door. So very cool for them to do that. But this is kind of what briefings look like when weather allows. So we're just continuing what we were doing and trying to keep our social distancing and wear masks. And of course, we certainly are doing that when we're in contact with the public. We have issued our PHO enforcement guidelines, and we got a warning letter that Linda helped produce. And you know, knock on wood, we haven't actually had to use that letter yet. We haven't had a lot of difficulty. We still get calls, but typically we get good cooperation when we contact the people. We anticipate as the stores open up and you know, in Park Meadows opens up, that we may have a few more calls for services. More and more people come together and you know, maybe they don't interact in this positive way. So we anticipate that could occur. And then we've added additional policies and guidance for certain things for the officers. So when I say that, we're getting really specific about the exact procedures we want to see on a traffic stop, the exact procedures we want to see if we have to make an arrest, you know, the exact procedures for decontaminating vehicles after an arrest or after a biohazard. And so we're really just putting together really formalizing a playbook, so to speak, for dealing with you know, the conditions we find ourselves in today. Next slide, if you don't mind. And then, you know, we're starting to obviously plan for the eventual opening of businesses and what our role will be in that. You know, as Bill said, we met with, or actually Bill and I met with Pam and her staff out of Park Meadows and just sort of talked about a lot of things. And we're going to have further discussions about enforcement in that kind of environment. And, you know, we anticipate, you know, people will have different levels of tolerance and different levels of awareness about themselves. And there will be conflicts that arise. And so there was supposed to be another picture here. What happened to it? Oh well. So that's the next step that we're going through, is trying to plan for that. And then, and then we're planning for the future of the department. As I alluded to earlier, what are these new changes and things that we've done, recently? How does that affect us in the future? And what does the future look like for a police department and working from home and different things that, make maybe some jobs more attractive and so on and so forth. So, and then we have had an increase in certain types of crimes that we've seen up and down the Front Range, primarily property crimes. We have seen a slight uptick in Lone Tree with motor vehicle thefts and car break-ins, and then the other one that's been interesting, and it's happened. All these are nationwide trends actually, and the other one has been aggressive driving. So as the roads have opened up and there's less and there's more, I guess, ability to speed and do what you want on the roadway. We've had a lot of complaints on the highways and stuff, and so we are actually continuing our driving enforcement and have fully implemented our traffic unit. And then we're coordinating with State Patrol. They're getting ready to try to do more enforcement on the highways and C-470 and E-470, just due to complaints and high speeds that we've been seeing on the roadway. So I wouldn't say we're in any type of crisis crime-wise, but some communities like El Paso County and I think Denver and Aurora have seen actually increases in those types of crimes over their numbers from last year. So we have not seen that, but obviously that's something we're going to pay really close attention to and continue to try to be proactive. So that's about it, unless you have any questions for me.
So, Chief, I don't have a question, but I want to just let you know the governor had a call today with the Metro mayors and indicated on that call that he would be open and probably convening another call with mayors and police chiefs to talk about enforcing the new safer at home policies once they're kind of published. And so just stay tuned for more on that call. I think it's important that we're consistent across jurisdictions wherever we can be, recognizing that each community might have its own little special take on something, but something coming down the pipe. And then probably in line with some of the stuff that was mentioned, I also want to say on that call, the governor did indicate that he would be releasing kind of a master executive order that governed the kind of the safer at home framework, and that specific policies are being put into place as we speak, and there will be an opportunity. And I think Jeff Holwell is going to be reaching out and making sure some of the large employers and industries have an opportunity to participate in a survey the governor's office is going to be releasing to advise on those policies. And I think we'll have a better idea, he said, by the end of this week, but by Monday at the latest, on what those specifics are going to be. And again, each county or public health organization will probably fine tune those for their own communities. But obviously, we all know we can be stricter than what the governor said. But I think that guidance we should expect to see sooner rather than later. So that's the update from me on that. Council, are there any questions on any of the presentations after that initial kind of what our normal business presentation? And I'm going to quickly run through so everyone has an opportunity. Mayor Pro Tem Brunick.
No questions.
Anything?
Thank you.
Councilmember Shaw.
None from me.
Councilmember Carpenter.
No questions, but thanks.
Councilmember Anderson.
No questions. Thanks for all the updates.
And again, I think I speak for council when we collectively say what tremendous work the staff has been doing, and we know you've been doing it, and we very much appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Seth. I think you have some closing comments.
Yeah,
Seth,
thank you. I just wanted to share a little bit of the positive feedback we have been getting from the community. If it's all right, I'd just take just a minute or two to read you some of these emails that we've received. This one is from the staff at the Lone Tree Brewery, and it says, on a different note, I wanted to tell the city thank you from us here at the brewery. I'm glad we were able to put a banner out front. We're working on getting a flag made for the grass area. Also seen that on the city website, you've had us along with most restaurants on the list of ordering to-go products. So thank you for that. I've also seen that along with the city of Lone Tree has been retweeting our posts on Twitter. So I thank you a lot for that too. So that's really cool from a business. And then a resident, we got a thank you that says, not only did the staff not miss a beat, you guys are in overdrive. And overdrive is a good word. I would actually agree with that a little bit. And then we got one just last week that said, I want to give a commendation to Officer Chuck. Didn't get his last name, that's Chuck Miller. Last week I was having low blood sugar during a bike ride as I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I found Chuck and asked if he could hang out with me till I knew my blood sugar was coming up safely. He was patient and very helpful and stayed with me for the entire time when I got myself back together. I just wanted the department to know how well he conducted himself, both on a personal and professional level, and to say thank you. So that's kind of that. I love that one because it demonstrates that we're still delivering the Lone Tree standard of service, even in a global pandemic. So that's really great. And please, Chief, share that with Chuck. And then this last one, I'm not going to read them all, but this last one I really appreciate Robin Skirto, who's been doing a great job. She's actually says she's been reaching out to many of our donors for their generosity to the Lone Tree Feeds program. I was asked to pass along the following message to you from one of them. He said that over the years, he's listened to thousands of corporate executives give presentations. He recently listened in to one of our town halls and was very impressed with the professionalism exhibited. He feels that the mayor is a stand-up public service and thinks that Lone Tree Feeds is a brilliant idea, and he's happy to support it. He felt the outreach for the program was well written and is impressed that it was presented by Mayor Millet and the former mayors. So job well done. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. Obviously, it's been recognized in the community.
Well, yeah, thank you, Seth. That was very kind, but I think really our everyday heroes are the folks that are showing up every day to do their jobs, and that really includes our city employees who are juggling, as our council members are too, balancing having college children at home or having high school kids going to school, or as Councilmember Carpenter, the overachiever, has got like elementary, middle school, and high school kids that are navigating through the process. And I know we all have those challenges, but I think you guys are showing up every day and doing a great job for all of our residents and the business community. And it is very much appreciated, obviously, by those great letters. So thanks to all of staff and to my partners on council and the leadership team at the city for the great work that's being done. So with that, we are going to move on. I already did our council questions, so we're going to move on now to our legislative update. And Jeff, I know you're probably going to touch on it, but if you have any insight, you know, I know that, and you may not have had a chance to look at the U.S. Senate just passed a $484 billion aid. It's what I've heard is geared towards small business, but if there's any implications on local government from that, if you know yet, I'd love to hear it. Although this is fast breaking news, so I completely understand if you haven't had an opportunity to read that yet. So with that, I'm going to turn it to you for our legislative update, Jeff.
Yes, Mayor, I do have some details there, and I'll get to it towards the very end of the presentation. Thank you again, Mayor and Council. I put together a few slides to do an overview of public policy issues that you're probably going to run across or will be confronted with that are happening at the federal and state level that you may see in your meetings. Starting with the federal government, there have been 3 bills, major bills passed, and 1 to 2 more that are in the works that involve you know, coronavirus and the related activity around it. The first that was passed in early March was called the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act. It was the first and the smallest of $8.3 billion that was basically designed to support public health at the federal level, as well as state and local emergency preparedness. It also had a small portion of it that was sent to diagnostic and vaccine research and development. But the next one that you might have heard a lot more about in the media, if you could forward to the next slide, was called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It was a $50 billion appropriation designed primarily for employers or around employment. It expanded the FMLA guidelines that employers would follow relative to their employees that need to take time off for a sickness or to care for a loved one. It increased unemployment insurance benefits for those that may have lost a job. And then finally, the biggie that was part of it is it mandated emergency paid sick leave for COVID-19 related care. It would have to, someone would have to be diagnosed with a COVID diagnosis to receive this emergency paid sick leave, primarily for the public sector. I mean, the private sector that is required to provide it. One caveat here is the public sector was excluded from it. However, we've been fortunate that that's not really impacted us much at the city of Lone Tree. The next piece of legislation is the one you hear about the most, the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It was a $2.2 trillion appropriation. And if you remember the 2008-2009 housing crisis, the two stimulus bills in that at that time were smaller than $2.2 trillion. Its basic tenets are that it provides relief to individuals, the IRS economic impact payment that individuals are receiving from the IRS, and many have already. It expanded unemployment benefits by $600 per week. That was actually just launched on Monday. So people that have been unemployed or are experiencing unemployment, that there was an expansion of benefits to those individuals. A big area of it was covering healthcare institutions, research and development industry. So, think of the airline industry or other major industries of the United States that have been impacted by the economic slowdown. And then finally, small business, and that's the area that is the PPP, the payment, the payroll protection program that small businesses have been applying for to cover their payroll or other expenses while they've been unable to operate. The final piece of this was the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and that was the fund that was designed to support state and local governments that was through a $150 billion appropriation in total. The state of Colorado received about 2.3 billion of that, and they had to distribute some of the rest of that to governments with local governments with 500,000 people or more. Unfortunately, many local governments in the state of Colorado and nationwide were left out of this piece of it. That was signed by the president in late March. Then the fourth stimulus package, what may become the fifth stimulus package, involves several things, and you alluded to it earlier, Mayor. The U.S. Senate today came to an agreement with the administration around a $470 billion program to fund three things, and it's the top three things. It would be the SBA Paycheck Protection Program and economic injury disaster loans. I have 350 billion listed here. That was what it was yesterday when I created this. It's now 370 billion to supplement the PPP program, which was depleted last week. That demand for that program has been significant. $75 billion to healthcare and hospitals, and $25 billion to testing and tracing. The agreement today, therefore, did not include anything around state and local governments. There is separate legislation that's been introduced, and there's been heavy advocacy, including a letter from including Mayor Millay and the Metro Mayor's Caucus to support state and local governments, especially those that were under that population threshold of 500,000 because of their loss in revenue as well due to the quarantine. There's been a lot of talk also about potential infrastructure investments as economic stimulus package. That is still TBD as well. So what I'll say is that today's news, the Senate agreed to the $470 billion package without consideration of state and local governments or infrastructure. It does have to head to the U.S. House of Representatives for their concurrence. I think it'll probably happen. It'll also probably happen without the state and local government infrastructure involved. My guess is that happens in a fifth stimulus package. but let's keep an eye on it, and I think a lot more to come in that topic.
Jeff, can we just, hey Jeff, it's the mayor. If we could just pause for a minute. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Brunick has been working with Colorado Municipal League on the advocacy for state local government. I just want to give her an opportunity to, I think, thank our partners and speak to that a little bit. So Mayor Pro Tem, is your mic hot?
Yeah, it is. And I would just say that, yeah, there's been a tremendous amount of work going on at CML. Understanding when the limitation was noticed that so many of the cities across Colorado would not be included, and that the current statement from the state is not to distribute more of that money in that way. So I really appreciate Kevin Baumer's leadership and his ability to really push on this topic. We do have an executive board meeting. We'll be hosting it as a Zoom conference for the first time. Although I have to give them props, they've been allowing phone call in to their meetings for quite some time, but we'll be meeting on Friday, and I expect to have some updates from them on the additional work that they're doing specific to what happened with CARES and what happens next.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff, back to you.
Thank you again, Mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Brunick. I would agree. I think Kevin Baumer and CML have done a great job, and thanks for your leadership on the executive board as well. This is the final slide here, and it involves the state government and state legislation that is related. The General Assembly will reconvene on March 18th. At least that's the date that they've announced, and they want to address basically three things: a very different state budget than they had anticipated earlier this winter. The School Finance Act must be passed every year to support K-12 education in Colorado. They will address any sunset legislation. One that is directly related to us is the Sales and Use Tax Task Force. Those entities that might sunset, but they would like to extend, that are pretty non-controversial. And then they've their leadership, the legislative leadership, has expressed a statement of fast, friendly, and free. Any new legislation that they might consider has to go fast. It has to be non-controversial or friendly, and it can't cost anything. Otherwise, they'll do the fourth F, they said, fail the bill. But what's also probably relevant to us is lots of things will be postponed. The tobacco regulations or vaping regulations that was House Bill 1001 is very likely postponed. It finished its work in the House, didn't have any time in the state Senate. Transportation legislation is also likely postponed. And beyond that, even the State Transportation Commission is postponing projects that have been in their queue and some of their bonding that was previously approved in years past. And then, not just a state legislative issue, but the ballot initiatives that were to potentially appear on the November 2020 ballot are also unlikely due to petitioning requirements and the ability to mobilize for groups that would like to get a issue on the 2020 ballot. That would include Proposition 121, which was the growth initiative that had a lot of interest prior to COVID-19. That's it for the presentation, but I'm also very happy to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff, for that thorough presentation, and appreciate that. And I will go through Mayor Pro Tem Brunick. Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Anderson, any questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Carpenter?
No questions, but thanks again, Jeff.
And Councilmember Shaw?
Again, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the governor on the call today, Jeff, just so you're in line with the conversation about funding for local governments, his push is to grow the pie, and that should be our effort, not squabble over the pie that exists. So I think there will absolutely be more to come. I think there has been tremendous pressure on the governor from across the state, from most of us that are under the $500,000 population limit, to get some relief. He indicated that the state was, for now, going to be holding on to those monies to prioritize those most at risk and in need in the community. So there'll be more to come, I'm sure. With that, again, thanks, Jeff, and we're going to move on to some of our transportation initiatives that are moving forward. Ridgegate Parkway widening project update from Justin Schmitz. Justin.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of council. It's good to see you all again, and I'm glad to get an opportunity to talk about some of the exciting work that Public Works is doing. Obviously, our Public Works staff has been hard at work doing the day-to-day tasks that are required to run the city, making sure trash is still picked up, the snow plows are running, and all of our operations and maintenance, and they've been doing a great job. We also have been running some of our continuing capital projects, and those are, I'm going to highlight two of them tonight, just for some general updates. Part of the reason is we get a lot of questions about, are these projects still going in all this? What's happening? So I thought I'd give an opportunity to give updates. And then if you have any questions or hearing something, you would have that information as well. So we're going to start with Ridgegate Parkway widening project. And there's really 3 points I wanted to highlight tonight. One is the Ridgegate Parkway project continues. So that is good news. And the city and the contractor have established new safety measures to meet OSHA state and local requirements. You can imagine how many requirements are coming out about vertical and horizontal construction and how you can do it safely in today's world. And the team has done a great job of making sure that happens and continues to happen on that project moving forward. That was a big effort and was successfully implemented. Another big milestone, initial acceptance has been requested for phase one. If you remember, phase one was really the construction of the bridges. So that was the bridge work and the roadways that connected into those new bridges. So for all the major work has been completed for all that. We are now into punch list and working through that. But that's a really big step to get the initial acceptance for phase one. And phase two, which if you remember is all the rest of the paving work that will connect and complete the expansion project and allow the entire project to go from 2 lanes or 1 lane each direction today to a 6-lane roadway is well underway. And for those of you who've been out there, you notice traffic has been shifted onto the southern couplet, and a lot of work has begun on the northern section of the road. That was done some time ago, but continues forward. I did have a few photos here I wanted to highlight. Just if you haven't been out there recently, one, you can see how little traffic there is. This was actually taken just the other day, and this is not the normal amount of traffic on Ridgegate Parkway, but this is the kind of volumes we are seeing today. What you'll see on the right is you will see the new paving that has come on phase one. So right where the dirt line is the boundary between phase one and phase two. And the reason I want to show this was you can see a lot of that work is completed on phase one, and phase two is picking up to continue that work beyond. So the pavement is down, the bridge work is down, and you can start to see this is where the couplet will eventually split. You can start to see right where that split is happening. And as we move from here towards the east is where you would start to have the couplet become developed much further. So again, this is an exciting moment in the project to really start to see some of these things if you're out there coming to completion and really starting to see those next steps in this project moving forward. Here's another one that you can see, hopefully. Believe it or not, if you look just to the right of this picture, that is the bridge that used to have the road on it. So that is where Ridgegate Parkway was. That used to drive on. It has now, been removed, and all the work on that northern section of the couplet is happening right now. We've again shifted traffic. So if you were driving out there today, you are driving on the southern couplet, and you are taking the new bridge and the new roadway that was constructed already as part of phase two. Again, this kind of gets good perspective, and it's a little hard to see, obviously, the scale, but I did want to just kind of show, and if you get a chance to look at it, all of this work going along the power lines that you can see in the horizon is where the new couplet, the new northern section is built. And all that land that exists between really that, where those lines are, all the way to the other side is all that future development land, which once you start to see the scale of it, it's quite impressive. It's kind of hard to see sometimes on a 2-dimensional maps we've shown in the past, but you can really start to see what this future is going to look like for the east side of Lone Tree. And as a traffic engineer and a public works guy, those are exciting moments for me. So you can see this is one more I wanted to highlight. You can see one of the other things that's really happening is we're starting to implement some of the curb returns, the pedestrian ramps. Again, these are things in process and construction. But the exciting part is we're starting to establish where those future roadway connections are going to go to connect into the east side development. So you're starting to see things take shape out there. In addition, on the right, you can see all the new LED streetlights that have been put along the entire project. So again, if you're driving on Ridgegate Parkway today, you have all new street lights that are constructed. These are all LED lights. They also have what we call 7-pin connectors. For what that basically means is they could become in the future smart technology lights, and they can incorporate all kinds of smart city technologies into them. So you'll see if you look at them, they look totally different than a lot of the other lights that exist in Lone Tree, and that's really the future of where we're going and that innovation that we're putting in place. So again, I didn't want to give a lot of details on it or go too far into it, but I did want to give some of these big highlights and big moments that we're experiencing on this project, and certainly willing to take any questions you may have beyond that.
Justin, I have a question. If given are there any budget and schedule implications since there is less traffic on that roadway now? I would imagine we would have less need for traffic control. That cost might be down, and maybe things are moving a little bit faster. Can you speak to any budget schedule implications?
Certainly, Mayor, that's a great question. And, you know, on this project, the mass majority of the work was always planned to be done outside of the roadway, the way that it was phased and the way it was constructed. So there was not a significant amount of traffic control included in it. And so I have not heard that directly, but obviously anything that can be done to accelerate that right now and put in, especially some of the tie-ins and other things, I know they're looking into options to do that. Again, there's not a ton of opportunity on this particular project, but those are things that they are looking into.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. All right, let's go through. Mayor Pro Tem Brunick, any questions on this?
No, I have a somewhat unrelated question that I'm going to ask now, Justin, just because we've got you. But I know we've had some pretty significant snowfall late here in the season, and I'm very grateful for all the plows making that still an okay way to get around. Do we have a sense, based on January through this last current snowfall, how we're tracking against budget? I'm just slightly concerned, you know, that it's always a guess for us, and just wondering, given the higher degrees of snowfall, are we running slightly ahead on that budget or not?
Yeah, great question. Certainly we did, you know, we got some 8-inch storms, you know, recently in April. With the low volume of traffic, one benefit was we were able to get that snow removed and get it taken care of. As far as budget goes, we are tracking that. We are continually monitoring it. What we've currently seen is, yes, we we sort of look at the first part of the year for snow and then obviously the second, and we have to make guesses. But the budget that we have allocated, at least for the first half of the year, we appear to be tracking well on, if not just barely slightly under. But it's right on. Again, it was a pretty big snow season, and we do be pretty cautious with that budget to make sure we can always meet that need. But we have seen, we are certainly in the safe zone still.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's funny now that I'm on council, but after all these years, like I see snow and the first thing I'm like, oh man, that's going to be some more budget.
And the one thing, we are monitoring it. We are trying to, with less traffic on the road, we are trying to see if there's, certain opportunities to maybe have a few less plows out, but we obviously are making it safe. And so those are decisions we're talking about. But we're making those just like we would any other day and complete with every other storm. So
super. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, in addition to saying, oh no, there goes part of our budget, but it's also, please, 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 let's keep the roads plowed and safe, just like you always do. Great job at the city. But yeah, we look at snow differently on council than we do as just a regular private citizen. All right, Councilmember Shaw, do you have any questions on anything public works related for Justin?
Nothing for Justin, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Carpenter?
No, but I like the look though, Justin. Good job on that one.
Yeah,
and also I did drive by Ridgegate Parkway the other day, and it is amazing. It looks dramatically different than it did a month ago. So
big progress for sure.
And Councilmember Anderson, anything from you?
Yes, Justin, thank you for keeping your foot on the pedal in terms of these capital projects. It's very important to the economic recovery aspect of coming out of the COVID virus crisis. A question regarding labor force. Jackie, the mayor asked a question in terms of budget. Are you hearing anything from the major contractors that are working in terms of labor problems?
It's a great question, Councilman. I have not heard that. Before, in the March and before world, there was a lot of shortage of labor out there. That was something we were hearing from contractors quite a bit, just due to getting labor, having them remain with the companies. I have not heard any difference in any of that conversation based on this current situation, and I haven't heard it's gotten better either. So I think we're pretty much, as far as that kind of labor staff, it's been consistent with what existed really for the entirety of 2020 to this point.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Justin, I think we're ready to move on then to the Adaptive Signals project update.
Great. And so the second project that I wanted to present on tonight was the other really big ongoing project that we have underway. And I have a few more details to share on this one. And so again, I wanted to highlight, first of all, the installation of the Yosemite Corridor Adaptive Traffic Signal Project is underway. About a week ago, I had a call with Greenwood Village and Centennial with both Public Works directors, just to kind of touch base on where we are in the project to make sure we're all on the same page. And in our conversation, all three cities are still proceeding with their projects at this time. That was good news. Certainly, it's a priority for our city. But again, and we'll talk about this a little more, that is not just a City of Lone Tree project. This is a regional multi-jurisdictional project, and we want to make sure we have that ability to still implement it. An additional note, all the materials and the equipment have been received. So we remember late last year, we got approval to move forward with the contract with Altitude Signal, and we have continuously been getting orders over the last 3 months. You'd be shocked at how much material comes in. All that material has been delivered out to our facility, our Public Works facility, and is now being implemented in the field. And I'm going to show some highlights of that as we move forward. A quick summary, the project boundary, if we remember, goes currently from Lincoln all the way to Bellevue. We are working to implement additional control at our new traffic signal at Crooked Stick and Ridgegate Parkway, which will begin construction starting next week. And so that is included as part of that project. But again, this goes well beyond the border of City of Lone Tree into City of Centennial and into the City of Greenwood Village. And they are also currently working on installation at the same time. So really all three cities are concurrently working to install this equipment together. Quick reminder, the signals we're referring to, we have a total of 20 signals plus the additional signal at Crooked Stick that will all be in place. And I'm not going to go through each one, but again, we remember these were all the locations and we've begun installation of the product and all of our different infrastructure at all these intersections. Part of that is, and this is where it gets a little technical, I'll try to go, but so the Synchro Green adaptive control software, this is the actual software that makes sure we can actually run all of this adaptive system when it's completed, was downloaded to the central server at Douglas County TMC on March 30th. So not too long ago, we were able to get all of that downloaded. We coordinated with Douglas County and we were able to get in to the system. Again, remember the selection that we made as far as our vendor was one that would be consistent with this central server and central system so that we could download it directly to Douglas County. We wouldn't have to create a whole new system or network. And the good news was when we downloaded, we didn't break anything or damage anything. So the county's not mad at me. So I'm glad about that. The second part was the intersection licenses were also downloaded at the same time. And this is what really allows the intersections and the scope to utilize their control systems. So obviously all these things, you have to have a certain license fee and a license to do that. So we have implemented all of that already. The vendor has come in once to show us how to use it. And we'll be having additional meetings in a safe manner when that's appropriate with our vendor to come in and have a few more trainings and discussions. Again, these are small groups, but we are working to make sure we can do that in a safe way when the right time to have that is. A few other highlights. So this is really the installation side. As of April 15th, 8 of our access points, now that's really the system that goes on the signal pole that allows all the communication to happen. So we've installed 8 access points. I believe we're at 10 today. We've done a few more since then. Out of the 20 have been installed, and 28 of our in-ground advanced vehicle detections have also been installed. So we continue to upgrade all of these intersections as we work. And all of this work was performed by either our in-house staff and our contracted maintenance crew. So this is a great project for both our in-house maintenance crew as well as our in-house staff to be out there delivering projects and programs that are going to make a difference for the City of Lone Tree. And right now it's a time that's actually good to install a lot of this. A lot of these are pucks that have to be drilled into the asphalt and you seal them with epoxy. it's short-term closures, but obviously if we're at full capacity of the roadways, it's a little complicated and it's more, it's a little more dangerous than what we're seeing out there now. So we're taking advantage of the situation we have to try to ramp this up and get everything installed as soon as possible. Kind of the last highlights. The original work plan for this project, we did adjust it slightly based on what we've seen recently due to impacts from this COVID issue. And really the original part was we were going to do a lot of the work to install the new stop bar detection cameras at each intersection around Park Meadows. And then we were going to proceed to do the in-ground detection, which did require a lot of lane closures. Staff had some great recommendations and decided to take advantage of the lower traffic volumes we're seeing right now and perform all the necessary lane closures during this current stay-at-home order around Park Meadows Mall and any of those intersections to minimize traffic impacts once that order's been lifted. So basically what that means is we were going to kind of do all the camera work and then come back and slowly do all the in-ground work and try to maximize it. What we really focused on was getting all the work done as much as possible, both cameras, both in-ground, complete intersections around the mall, and then we can start to go down Yosemite from there. And that was really to take advantage of the situation we have and to try to make sure there are very minimal impacts as soon as we are able to reestablish businesses in the community. A few photos of the work that the team's doing out there. So this is Public Works staff and TerraCare staff out there installing it. You can see us using our traffic signal boom truck to get up and actually install the access points. This is the access point that's being installed right now on the actual intersection. Each one of these take, to do one of these about an hour to 2 hours, depending, because there's a lot of wiring, a lot of work that has to go into this. Again, you can see the amount of volume that you're seeing on Yosemite Street in this photo, and this is the time to get a lot of this work done. And both of these signals are, the ones that are directly adjacent or right near Park Meadows Retail Resort, and why we focused on getting these complete as soon as possible. One other photo I wanted to show, you can see this is our staff. This is actually Kyle, one of our inspectors, who's getting trained by our expert Bill in signal work, and he's been up there learning, doing a great job, and obviously wearing the appropriate mask and PPE that our staff is wearing every day out there to keep it safe, even though he's in a bucket truck 20 feet up in the air. So, the team's really taken this task on and is really, I think, excited about delivering a project that's going to make a big difference. And we've seen that passion come out through the project. A few next steps. Really, the current next steps are we're planning to complete the installation of all the cameras, pucks, sensors, and the work in our cabinets. And we are also beginning testing and running these timing plans. Again, this is with our vendor that will be coming in to help us run, test, and refine this. And finally, we're going to be continuing meetings and conversations with both Centennial and Greenwood Village to kind of determine when the turn-on date for the entire corridor will be. And at this point, it is still planned for this summer as we originally planned in our discussions last year. Again, just wanted to highlight a few of these changes, some of the great work our team has been doing, and would love to take any questions you have about this project.
Great. Thank you, Justin. And I'll have council start with Councilmember Anderson. Questions?
No, good to see there's a silver lining in something through this crisis, that we were able to take advantage of some of the lower traffic and get things done more efficiently. Thank you, Justin.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Yeah, Justin, a quick question. What concerns do you have in terms of the data collection piece of it being a different traffic pattern that we normally should have or have had in the past, and the kind of the sample size of the data that you're collecting?
Great question. I was pretty much prepared for that one, Jay. So, good question. So let me answer it in two ways. One, we luckily, we have been collecting data with the Blinksy devices we installed for many, many months. So we started in June of 2019 collecting data. And part of the reason was we could collect a large amount of data over a wide amount of time. And so we were collected summer, school time when school was in, summertime, at the end, as well as the holiday season, and then into spring. So we've been able to get a great assessment. Now, to be fair, we didn't get April 2019, and our April 2020 is not really going to be a great measure of what traffic would be. But we do have a great amount of many, many months of data that we can use to install this. And one thing I did look at some counts we have around the city. just out of my own curiosity. So on a, typically we have around 21,000 vehicles a day on Yosemite. For the month of April, we believe what we're seeing, we had about 8,000 cars a day. So if you do the math on that, it's about 35% of the traffic that we would typically have on Yosemite. So again, the one thing I have also noticed is it does allow us an opportunity to actually look at some trends that we never would have been able to look at. And so we can start to see travel patterns, what happened, how much was directing which directions, right? To the mall, for example, or other places. We can kind of see that actually now because some of those travel patterns have changed, and it allows us to take advantage of that. So that's how we're looking at it. And so really this last month gives us an opportunity to look at what happens in different patterns, but the volumes we're really looking at from that longer term.
Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you. I like the opportunity to be able to tell the residents, while you were at home, look what we did, which will be very exciting. I had a question about the puck-size drill holes and the epoxy. How does that work when it's time to repave?
It's a good question. So typically with these pucks, as you go through and repave, typically what will happen is you'll remove them, and then as soon as the project is complete, you will reinstall them, because obviously if you brought the mill through, it would damage them. We did, one reason Yosemite Corridor was a benefit was it was just recently repaved, right before I came to the city, and so it is a brand new paved road, so we don't see any kind of need to repave it anytime in the near term. But certainly if there's a construction project, those kind of things, the typical safety measure is you remove the product, do the work, and then replace it after, because they can last up to 5 years, and we would want to maximize that investment in that product.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem Brunick, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay. Justin, my only other comment would be, I know Park Meadows Metro District has been a financial funding partner for us in this project, and so I think they would obviously love to hear this presentation as well. So if you could coordinate with Seth and Park Meadows Metro District to make sure they're up to date as well, I think they'd appreciate it. So thank you for their great work. All right, moving on to ceremonial presentations. And, this is one of my favorites with Arbor Day. I think that our city name is so fitting with Lone Tree. It is wonderful that we continue to be a tree city. So the City of Lone Tree Proclamation, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business area, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, particularly lately. And whereas the City of Lone Tree seeks to assist homeowners and property owners in selecting and caring for their trees with ongoing community education in conformance with the forestry plan completed by the Community Development Department in 2018. Now, therefore, I, Jacqueline A. Millay, Mayor of the City of Lone Tree, Colorado, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby officially proclaim Friday, April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Lone Tree to be affixed this 21st day of April 2020. So, more good news for the city. All right, moving on to our consent agenda, which includes minutes of the April 7th regular meeting, claims for the period of March 31st through April 13th, 2020, and the February 2020 Treasurer's Report. I will look for a motion on the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And I will ask, oh, excuse me, second was Jay?
Second,
Mike.
sure.
Mike,
It's
Chair.
a tie. It's a tie.
All right, perfect. Well, I will ask our city
Aye.
clerk to go through roll call for voting. Thank you, guys.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Brunick,
Aye.
and Mayor Millet.
Aye. So the motion passes 5-0. So with that, it is now our council comments, and during our virtual meetings, the city council has again graciously yielded their time to me. I spoke individually with each of you to ask what was the most important message that you wanted to communicate this evening. And the overarching theme was gratitude and pride in our residents, our businesses, and our staff's response to the devastating pandemic. Our city's collective support of Lone Tree Eats, Lone Tree Feeds, Lone Tree Works, our mask project has been tremendous. The resilience, the innovation, the creativity exhibited as we have learned our way forward through these challenging days has confirmed for each of us what we knew in our hearts, that our city is a very, very special place. We are a wonderful community, and we are extremely blessed to be able to call the city of Lone Tree our home. The social responsibility that has been demonstrated has frankly been remarkable. As the stay-at-home order now transitions to a safer at-home order in our coming weeks, we are going to ask you all to show the same level of commitment and personal responsibility. We are going to ask you to wear a mask when you're running errands or working outside your home, to practice social distancing when you are outside your home, to refrain from running errands or going to work if you're ill or someone in your home is ill. And if you or a member of if you're a member of one of those vulnerable populations, we're going to ask you to stay home. We want you to continue to please take care of yourselves and each other. I know there is tremendous appreciation from council for this wonderful community, for the amazing staff, our everyday heroes that continue to work to support us. And we wish you Godspeed through the remainder of this stay-at-home order. And again, please, please practice the good personal responsibility as we move to a safer at-home order. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Okay, are we over?